Anonymous banker is everywhere. Why? Like, when did this happen?
He's like a fun guy.
Like a fun guy?
He's a fun guy.
Did you catch AB on a rival podcast this week?
Are you talking about the Grill Room one?
Yes, I didn't want to mention it because that's promoting another podcast. But yes, Dylan Byers.
Why isn't it?
Well, Dylan it's weird. Yeah, I think Dylan's going to be my rival.
Did he show up as anonymous banker?
Yes, he's taking he's like Jeff Goldblum. Like, what was the movie where he became a bug?
The Fly?
Yeah, where he's like escaped the lab.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that was in the plot. But like AB has escaped the lab.
Right. And then Dylan sort of positioned it as if he was taking away our, like, you know, crown jewels, you know, like competing in the media podcast.
When we all know it's me. I'm the get.
Well, weirdly, he referenced both me and Troy. I think it was Troy first, then me, but I don't remember. But then there was some Alex erasure there. So I don't know. There's a lot of dynamics.
I'm also often mentioned as the other guy.
Well, I think he sees you as the rival because you had all the makings of the sort of Tootie from Facts of Life like role of like, you know, you're a bit of a peripheral character and then you become a main character. And then you get your own show.
Tootie. Love it.
I want my young Sheldon show.
Just roller skate on in. Anyway, it was a good podcast. I recommend people listen to it if they want more baby.
But one thing I was wondering as I listened to a podcast yesterday is I wonder why I listen to podcasts that I don't like, podcasters that I don't like, and what it says about what we should do.
It's hate listening.
I know, but it's like
we have hate listeners. You don't think we have hate listeners? Like we have hate listeners.
I'm sure we do.
I think we all bring our own little contingent.
No, I don't ignite strong opinions.
I don't know. I've just developed such disdain for Scott and Kara, but I do listen to the podcast.
Oh, that's a classic hate listen. Classic. Mm-hmm. All in has become a hate listen for more.
I mean,
than
there's sort of hate listens that I just can't listen to, so I just hate them. I don't listen to them. Like, what's his knuckle along the Lex? I can't listen to Lex anymore. It's over.
No.
Yeah, he's tough. He's a tough listen.
I don't have any hate listens anymore. Life's too short, man. And there's way too many good podcasts. I actually didn't hate Kara and Scott like you did, but I think you brought that to me. You made me stop listening to them. And then I noticed, you know what? I don't miss them.
They're unbearable.
Yeah. Not to be geographyist, but like that's a very West Coast thing.
There's borderline hate listens. Like, I'm just getting old and cranky and less liberal all the time. So like Nilay Patel, anybody that has a sort of undercurrent of massive kind of liberal bias, I get irritated by.
I've been spending the last few months immersed in the manosphere. Like I've just decided to go all in to try to understand it because I do think it's important. I think a lot of the changes of the media ecosystem really did begin.
You know, a lot of people fall into the manosphere. Then it's not just the manosphere, by the way. You're talking about these sort of political extremist podcasts.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't call them extremists. They're just alternative views.
Correct. But sometimes you fall in, you don't come out.
No, I know. That's what I'm worried about.
It's happened to loved ones.
I'm worried about it because I'm listening to enough of them. And I mean, you know, beyond like just Joe Rogan, I'm in Steve Mannon's.
No, we all have like a brother that was like into yoga and progressive politics and now is a right-wing crank.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about it. But the thing that I'm like sort of concerned about is as I get deeper into this is there's truly a parallel reality that's happening right now. Like the Epstein story as it played out among like Glenn Greenwald, Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson, et cetera, completely different than what was going on in quote unquote mainstream media or even just, you know, general discussions. Same thing happening with this Obama as like, you know, being guilty of treason. I mean, like it's kind of like nuts to listen to this parallel reality and then go back to reading, I don't know, the New York Times or other place. And you're like, this is completely different. It's like there are groups of people now in this country who have completely different realities that I don't think I fully appreciated just how big the divide is. And it's a reality divide.
Right. Can you characterize the two camps?
Well, I would say the two camps are, I think it's beyond progressive and conservative because Glenn Greenwald cuts into, it's mostly around a conspiratorial sense that I think is really easy to fall into now. And I'm not sure exactly why. And I haven't seen Eddington yet, but I think it's, from everything I read, it's very much a part of that movie, which itself is fairly divisive. And there's a hidden hand, a hidden agenda. I mean, this is what fuels X, and it is really captivating. I'll be honest with you.
The nice thing about that movie is it's, at the risk of being confusing, is sort of non-denominational, right? Like you have the liberal opportunist in the existing mayor, you have the sort of MAGA crank in the sheriff. And then you do have this undercurrent of it kind of rendered in a really kind of believable way of the perversion of social media in terms of how we connect our kind of messaging and our digital persona from what kind of is going on in the real world. Yeah, you should see it. You should see it, by the way. And the movie's a little long, but it feels like a little bit like a Coen Brothers movie, and it gathers a lot of momentum.
I like any movie over an hour and 45 minutes has been banned in my house, but I'll try to grab it for the plane.
Just get it summarized. Get it summarized and explained to you by Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, it's been researched, right? Conspiracy theories have been happening forever. It's when people feel powerless. They want to feel like they have knowledge that other people don't have that explains the world for them, etc. And COVID was definitely one of those points that created a lot of conspiracy movements and conspiracy factions. But those Epstein things feel like they're it's a whole new wave that I'm noticing is reshifting the landscape a little bit, not only by having kind of ex-pro MAGA thing shift away, right? Like Tucker Carlson. And then even folks like CoffeeZilla, the guy that was doing all those crypto scam coverage on YouTube is now a full-on 24/7 Epstein files.
Oh my God.
To the point where I can understand how the Epstein file is being to bring a whole new audience into the conspiracy world, one that is probably anti-MAGA, anti-Trump, that is now going to move into this new faction. And
Epstein is the conspiracy gateway drug.
Oh, 100%. And it's never, I mean, what they did with it, how they handled it, how the administration handled it, if they wanted to make it stop, it'll never stop now. This is JFK, moon landing, pandemic. This is 9/11
is back, by the way. 9/11 is back. People are asking questions.
And the thing is, whenever something like that comes up, I think it also gives people an opportunity to go, were these other things that I thought were true also lies? And so I think it is fascinating to watch. Don't fall into it. I mean,
I know. AB offered me a Zyn at dinner, and I was like, no, I don't want to get
You guys kind of fit the demographic, right? Two middle-aged white men in a failing industry.
Well, we're going to get to the failing industry.
Well, one other thing on the movie Eddington is that, it's really the
Troy just wants a movie podcast. Okay, let's go, Troy.
It's the real first critical look at our reaction to COVID and the kind of hysteria around it. And there's these two funny characters in a moment in the movie where everybody in the theater breaks up laughing, and it's Brian and Sarah. She's kind of the personification of performative allyship and white fragility. That's her character, and he bones up to try to impress her to get with her.
Wait, there's a Brian character?
Yeah, I think his name in the movie, I think, is Brian. Anyway, he's sitting at the table, then he's adopted this kind of performative stance, and he's going on about native lands and BLM and stuff. And the father looks at him and says, what's wrong with you? Are you retarded? And the whole movie theater is finally, we have this collective permission to indulge in the term. And then he's like, you are white, and it's a moment of levity as we look back to how crazy those times were.
I haven't seen the movie, but I think there's a lot of critique of how we handled it. I think we should also remember how scared everyone was. I think a lot of this stuff started with people being deeply scared. And there was a good expose that I don't remember. I don't have a link on Rogan showing before he kind of became conspiracy theorist, how scared and how serious he was taking it. And I think a lot of people, that fear kind of broke them a little bit. And we forget that, right? Like we forget that we didn't know if we had to wrap ourselves up in spacesuits to go buy carrots. And nobody knew. And I'm sorry.
I'm very glad, I disinfected groceries one time, and I did the mental calculus, and just having enough self-awareness. I was like, you know what? If this is going to take me out, this is going to take me out, because I'm not going to disinfect the groceries each time I get them. So that was a turning point.
I did it.
A turning point for me.
I did it, but I'm a little bit neurotic.
Yeah. Yes. They would go to order a pizza, and they would put it in my trunk. Trunk pizza. Anyway, one quick note on that, because Troy and I were discussing this. It is very interesting that the pandemic was such a massive part of everyone's life, globally changed everyone's life for, ultimately for a couple of years. And just like the Spanish flu, it's never been reflected in art and culture. It never gets. This is unique in that we have not had a lot of programming of any kind that reflect on this momentous change. Instead, all the discussion has just been on civil liberties and content moderation. It's almost as if 7 million people didn't die, first of all.
I think it's because once it all was over, we all wanted to stop talking about it. There was a fair amount of pandemic art that was created during the pandemic, including some great episodes from TV shows that were, created under the constraints. I think there should be kind of a...
But wait, they didn't show the actual pandemic. People were not wearing masks. It's the same way in movies. You never on TV, you never see people sitting on their phones all the time.
I think we need some space, because I think once it was done, the last thing we wanted to talk about is everybody just wanted to go into a crowded bar and share fries off a plate.
Maybe, but the Spanish flu, it never got addressed. And also the Great Famine, another one that got memory hold in Ireland for a long time. So anyway, I want to get on to as Alex sort of flicked at, the declining, doomed industry, et cetera. Just a couple of quick notes beyond that. I think that one note that we never addressed, Status, which is a great publication. I know Troy might not like Oliver, but I like Status from Oliver Darcy. And
he's become less whiny since he left CNN.
Yeah, because the market sort of corrects for that. When you're cosseted inside a big media company, you're a little bit protected from the market, and you have to respond to signals. He had a piece the other, just a very in passing.
Oh, it's another Substack. Sorry, I think we should.
It's another Substack. It's not a Substack. It's on Beehive.
Substack on Beehive. Great.
It's not a Substack. It's a Beehive. It's a newsletter.
Nobody calls it a Beehive.
I know, that's actually that's an advantage.
They should really advertise and build that brand up, because Substack is
I know. There's good and bad of being synonymous with that. But he had a little note that Neil Vogel was a finalist to be the Peloton CEO earlier this year. I got a couple notes.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second.
I believe it 100%. I think it's the perfect profile. I think if you're a CEO of a media. CEO of a media company becoming the CEO of a bicycle that goes nowhere is it's a perfect side.
He says,
really?
Alex.
That's the kind of shot you're going to take? Neil Vogel? I think you made that joke last week, Alex. It wasn't good then, and it's not good now.
You laughed.
Neil has emerged as I think, one of the sort of, savviest of, and you can say what you want about the consideration set of media CEOs in dealing with all of the challenges that have been thrown at this industry, and this industry has created for itself over the years. So I hope, Neil, if you're listening, hope you stay in the media industry and don't ride off to the bicycle industry. One other note is, I think Wired is actually doing some kind of interesting work. This is something that you had noted. Katie Drummond took over there.
She's a killer, man. They're doing great.
She found a lane. And, it was really with Doge they saw this massive opportunity. And at first I would have said, well, that's dumb. Why do you want to, everything has to become politics? But they covered the hell out of this. And, as media, and we're going to get into this they look for a way out. It's not going to be easy to pull off, and it's not going to be right for a lot of brands.
Brian, we might need to fact check this, but I believe she went to my alma mater. She's Canadian, and she went to
really?
Queen's
Another
University.
secret Canadian of media.
Yeah.
They're everywhere, or at least they used to be.
Do you remember the early days? I used to lick the cover of Wired. I loved it so much.
Well, it had that tactile feel.
I think you love the chemicals they used to spray there.
Yeah, Louis Risotto and Jane Metcalf launched it in 93, Hot Wired in 94, where the first banner was born. Our friend Jonathan Nelson played a role in that.
Oh my God, like a trillion people claimed to play a role.
Well, I think he was actually there, and I remember the building because Organic was co-located in the Hot Wired
Modem
building.
Media claims that they did it.
Fun fact, Jonathan Nelson was also Alex's landlord. They sold it to Condé in 98 for $90 million without the digital arm of it that they subsequently, that Lycos of all people owned. And then they were reunited after Condé paid Lycos $25 million. So today the company, I was able to get some data on it. It's probably 35 to 40 million in revenue and about 100 employees. And they still have a lot of print subs, like 500,000 print subs.
But on impact, they're kind of there. Like I think they're doing. They were a little bit lost for many years. I think after Nick Thompson left Wired, they were a little bit lost.
Mr. Brian, there's an interesting value proposition comment.
It was like my barber would say that.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think it's $2 a month, okay? And what they've done recently as a subscriber benefit is stacked up newsletters from people like Stephen Levy. And so you get like 5, newsletters a week.
Wired is $2 a month?
Yeah, and it's $2 a month for the digital thing, or like 20 or $30 a year. And
what about the print one?
Just go under subscribe in the top right-hand corner, Alex, and you can answer that question.
That's true.
Top right, there we go.
I mean, to keep that rate base up, you can get it for free.
I think it's like maybe $4 or $5 a month if you... Did you hit it?
Oh, print and digital, here we go. $3 a month.
Alex is stroking his beard doing the math here, and I don't think it's going to be a good...
My point
I was just going to say, I'm in real time here. As a value proposition, if you add a couple of bucks and get the print magazine for something like Wired, I think print can be a great value prop to your digital subscription if it's done. Right. For something like Wired, right? For something like Wired, which feels like a coffee table book that you refresh every month or something like that.
It's 6 issues, but here's the thing, Brian. Most Substacks, like if you subscribe to Casey Newton's platform or whatever, like $10 a month.
Yeah.
This is 5 newsletters. It's like webinars, AMAs, stuff like that, and it's $2 a month.
Yeah.
We should talk about this at some point, but my Patreon, Substack, fucking, premium podcast subscription on Apple Podcasts, that universe of things that I'm paying for individual podcasts is becoming like really expensive. The amount of content I get for it compared to like what I pay for Netflix or what I pay for my Audible subscription is like terribly bad value. I think lots of folks are gonna reach that point. You pay $2 to $5, to individuals everywhere. It starts adding up.
Well, this is a demonstration of why aggregating, voices around a brand and, having a digital print and sort of activation platform at $3 a month is actually like a materially better value prop than paying an individual contributor $10.
Yeah, I mean, that's the basic bet of Puck, right? I mean, they're aggregating like a bunch of Substackers at the end of the day. People who could be Substackers in the world or have a beehive, and instead are part of a bundle, which is AKA a publication. And it is the opportunity for Substack. I mean, they've dragged their feet, and maybe it's just timing. There has to be a Substack 1, Substack Plus, Substack Max Pro, whatever you want to call it, that allows some kind of bundling.
Yeah, I think Ben Thompson with his Stratechery thing did that pretty well. Like, I don't feel like I'm overpaying for it. Even I get a handful of podcasts.
A lot of random stuff in that bundle, though. I don't want any of it.
I don't understand? I mean, can I rant a little bit? He has he has his newsletter.
Oh yeah, we're actually working on hate listens. So go ahead.
Yeah, so he has his newsletter as a podcast, right? Where it just like he has his newsletter and he reads it out as a podcast, and it's kind of well produced, and he reads it out, and he has a second person who I think is his assistant, read out the quotes, etc. But as he's reading out his newsletter, he's like, see diagram, see picture.
That's on brand. I feel like that's on brand.
I can't see it. I know you're reading verbatim, but just tell me, like, there's a diagram on the.
Look, you got to be authentic these days. Everyone says it, and sometimes that authenticity manifests in very strange ways, and I think that's one of them. I'll just put it that way. Let's talk about the demise of. Let's talk about the demise of.
I mean, the key part. So hold it. The Stratechery bundle is worth something. The podcast is valuable. He's super smart. He's a little snake tail eater. He references himself constantly.
I can't.
Which is a bit of a. It's a quirk. But he's a quality analyst, so let's give it.
He's a great analyst.
Just to sort of tie it back, I think this is all on the connecting the dots continuum, right? You have conspiracy theories, and then you have Ben Thompson and Stratechery and all of its clones on the other side. And all of it is trying to connect dots, and he's trying to connect the dots in the business and technology, and like the conspiracy theories are trying to connect dots that maybe don't connect when it comes to politics and how the world is run. So I think it's just a testament to how confused this time we're living in is right now. Let's talk about the demise of media companies, but more importantly, like how you structure them to get to some kind of version of sustainability.
I could kick this off, Brian, with a little model that I just made up.
Oh, did you? I'd love that. Is there sketches?
Well, let's see if it works. Maybe we can test it here a bit. But now that time has passed since the kind of old digital media model of platform distribution and scale showed, fundamental weaknesses with the distribution dependency and making content, for platforms, and then the degradation in ad experience brought up by terrible ads and misaligned incentives. We can start to look at what's next. And I sort of think that there's maybe 3 buckets of media that work now, or that will emerge. It's not that they work, it's more like just ways of thinking about it. And the one is reported media. And it's, a flywheel that sustains when, you have that scale and commitment to human-based fact gathering, sense making, fact checking, reporting, and the like. And obviously sensibly focused on topics that allow you to make money, and you serve the consumer well and are largely driven by the value proposition of a subscription, and you found a way to get enough scale to make that little system work. Obviously there's, the big examples that everybody uses, which are New York Times and Wall Street Journal. The Atlantic has their own little liberal spin on it that got momentum with the money from a deep pocketed benefactor and Lauren Powell Jobs. Wired is kind of trying to carve out territory here and kind of doing an okay job. Maybe Vanity Fair, this is the trouble with it. It sits on the precipice. It's not quite kind of scaled enough to be meaningful. And then you have the sort of Forbes, Fortune, Time that deliver kind of a veneer of news, but not enough to garner real.
Those are brands.
Yeah. Instead, they trade brand equity for ad dollars, and it's a tenuous position. So anyway, you have this reported bucket, and reporting is useful and doesn't get eaten by the machines. Then you have sort of impresario media, and they leveraging the power of personality and point of view to carve out mind share in like a noisy, what did you call it?
Impresario media?
Impresario media, right? They win on platforms. Audio and video drives the business, more ads than subs. They find the best find ways to spread the goodness of a human to a media brand, right? So Barry becomes the Free Press, Dave becomes Barstool, Mr. Beast is Beast Media. And there's a lot of newsletter people on the small sort of fragmented side in this bucket. And then you have this sort of agentic media, and it's, we're just starting to see what the outlines of this are. This is obviously the biggest threat to people that grew up in the scale era. But, much of what used to function as ad-carrying media will be aggregated and delivered in these sort of infinitely personalized bundles via AI interfaces. And the interesting thing here, I think, is that UGC finds life as AI sweeps it up and makes the interface better, right? And then you have, it's kind of early to tell if content creators can create a business feeding that beast. I doubt they can. Maybe data owners, people, in other words, people that have really unique content or data that's up to the minute or coveted or whatever, can find some blood in that vein. But most of the stuff in that category of agentic media, all the value attributes to the aggregator, and everything else is compressed and commoditized.
Well,
But-
especially if it's, I mean, anything that's non-evergreen and to the minute is going to do much better, right?
Yeah, so you got reported, impresario, and agentic, and that's
All right,
kind
wrote
of
those down.
But the agentic is basically just replacing SEO, right? I mean, like, you were creating content for SEO before. Every publication was doing this. Some, that was basically all they did. So I would just guess that they would then pivot to being, instead of SEO, GEO, which I
right.
see
Except
is
it's
coming
way
up.
harder to take value from that interface.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't
it's-
think the geo thing is gonna lift off. I've been thinking
Wait,
about that
why?
because I don't think that there's a ton of money to be made, and I don't think that Google itself is particularly incentivized to give up some of its revenue to get people to the transaction isn't the same as it was with websites, where with website you could say, look, you're building this website where you're trying to attract traffic, you're trying to bring people onto your website. SEO is a known evil that you need to do. It makes the websites worse for everyone potentially, but it kind of feeds both the bots and the people. When you're saying, like, we're just going to feed the bots and we're going to build stuff to feed into Google, unless you're building something that is where you have some sort of deal with Google, or you have some sort of Cloudflare paper crawl thing where you're making transactions over that, I don't think it works in the same way. It doesn't translate like that. And
I also think,
with-
Alex, that a lot of it is hijacked because stuff that wasn't useful before, which is people going off on Reddit, actually becomes useful now.
Well, yeah, because a lot of this, we talked about the permeability of content, right? And a lot of the content, even stuff that is your own, if it has a little bit of a lifespan, if it's not up to the minute, gets absorbed and rehashed on the internet across all different platforms. Any AI company just needs to sign a deal with Reddit, and it will have up to the minute news.
Yeah,
even.
but honestly, the early data just shows that, Muckrack did a study this week, that the citations on these generative AI answer engines are basically from mainstream media. That all of the weight of the PR industry is going to trying to figure out how to get quote unquote earned media. And it seems like the best path to that is not through individuals. It's through, guess what? Traditional media, trade publications, niche media. And so that is the type of media that AI is citing. Now, maybe they will end up citing it themselves, but I think that's just
Problem is, like, how much
position.
is that citation worth, right? Like the idea of getting people onto your site and then generate revenue on your site, and then like that kind of loop is gone. And another thing,
so that loop is gone. I think what there's no economic engine right now, but the value is clearly there. And I think that is the sort of divide, in that it's not like institutional media has no value. It's just that the economic mechanisms are not there to capture that value for them.
Yeah.
That's my position.
Yeah.
Yesterday, also, Trump seemed to put a nail into, kind of valuing IP as an input to generative models.
Yeah, I don't think
you saw that.
he's going to be the one to save the media industry.
No. I mean, there wasn't momentum to begin with, but
the way the courts
the
have
idea that what the tech people have framed this as being existential, that if we can't kind of disregard IP and train models, willy-nilly, that we won't win in AI. That's the argument.
I worry as a content creator. I worry that the input stuff is going to that things are leaning more and more into the input stuff being fair use, and as that's happening, I think it's just it's just going to make things a lot harder. But another thing, just like to keep on the back of your minds, and I don't know how important that is, but it's good to remember Google's incentives here. because a lot of people I talk to say, well, why would Google do this to themselves, right? Which is, a lot of the revenue comes from sending people to these links, and they make so much money on that spin wheel. But I think Google only monetizes 20 to 30% of its search queries, right? So if it can create a product around, that can monetize like the rest of those 70% and keep people on the site, there's a big buffer in there that they'll be able to work through. And they're going to become.
I agree, and I would operate.
More,
if I was running Google, which I never will be, I would operate.
Don't say never, man.
You got
some
time,
confidence
Troy.
that
You got time.
We believe in you. I heard Peloton's looking for a new CEO, or maybe Dotdash Meredith might be.
I would operate with some confidence that owning a decision-making interface like AI can be monetized in some shape or form, and that their subscription revenue is going to go way up as people pay for more powerful.
Google? I'm not worried about Google.
I'm not worried about Google either. But I did forget the fourth category, Brian, and that would be state appendage media, which is
I love that. I see that's a front operation to me.
All in has become.
AstroTurf.
Has become the official media of the Trump administration.
Well, it is remarkable that President.
It was a podcast, man. Now it's like
they had the president on yesterday making major pronouncement. I'm always like a sort of stay in your lane guy, go narrow and deep, etc. But let's give All In its laurels in that they pulled off the lane switch. They
did, and not only that, they converted. Like, you're obviously the Friedberg of this podcast.
I am,
and they converted him to Mega.
Oh,
if you fucking tell me that I'm the Jason, Troy,
well, you are the Jason.
So
I'm gonna go. No.
I'm going to hang up.
I'm going to hang up. We don't have a Jason on this podcast.
Yeah, it's AB,
what
man.
this teaches me is it teaches me
AB
this podcast should teach people you always have a boss. And even when you're a billionaire wearing fancy sweaters, doesn't mean you are not going to have to be a bootlicker because you're insecure and you need the audience. I mean, it's kind of wild. These guys keep talking about having fuck you money, but that's the last thing they're doing. I wish they did.
That's why it surprises me that you haven't embraced Elon, because she's clearly taking his tongue off the boot.
Oh, I've been on the record to say at least he's got balls.
Yeah. Well, you could now trade the Lucid in for a Tesla. You could go back.
I'm not transactional like that. It's not because now,
So Troy, I like to. I'm going to try to change the conversation. I'm interested in using your framework for some of the real world examples we're seeing right now, and I think the Washington Post is a really interesting one, and I think it's a real case study about how hard it is to have change within these organizations.
Right.
I mean, this week the Washington Post split off its much derided third newsroom to basically get it out of editorial. Now, some of this is just is
wait, what was the third
stuff.
Newsroom?
Yeah, so I'm just going to explain it, but some of this is just org chart stuff, but I think it's important. So the third newsroom, also known as WP Ventures, was the attempt by the Washington Post to basically create the new business while operating the old business. And what they did, and it was about exploring new formats and new arrangements, creators, etc. And they basically took it out of, the newsroom and the regular editorial structure, and they put it under Susie Watford, who is the chief strategy officer. He used to be under an editor. And now it's and they basically said it is to make it more closely aligned with commercial. And this is sort of getting around the church and state divide. They're going to focus entirely on building personality-driven content and franchises around personalities across topics that will appeal to new audiences with strong commercial opportunities. And I think this is...
Talk dirty to me, Brian.
Yeah, no, it reminded me a little bit, Troy, of that time when this was the challenge of the internet. And how do you change print organizations? And there was a moment, and you were part of this, right? It's like, well, you split them off. Maybe you put the digital people in charge of the digital instead of having it as an afterthought of the print people. And you got to blow up the structures. Give me your analysis of what's going on at the Post.
I think that newsrooms are culturally powerful. I think that that structure exists to create necessary independence. but it gets in the way of organizational evolution. The magazine challenge was a little bit different. You basically had a generation of, I would say talented, editors and creative types that grew up around delivery of a product through a very leveraged medium where you could put a lot of money into a single publication and have a kind of, entitled culture that goes along with that. And you had, 100 decent magazine businesses, like a good one is $100 million. And, that's a lot of money to be able to sort of indulge a team to build a product and then go out and sell it. So when you then go to change, and remember too that the magazine world had all these sort of third rail items that you couldn't do, or that you had to kind of avoid, which is, you don't understand the brand was like a key kind of term of that era, or that, that there was this kind of power in people that could interpret both culture and the brand and where your brand sat in it. And, it was all very, it was a structure that kind of got in the way of creating change, particularly when the internet came along and said, we need to broaden what we publish to be able to kind of compete in a, demand-based media era. And that, we need to create more, we need to create cheaper, we need to create different media types, we need to be extremely agile, we need to cross the threshold from that which is just, editorial to that which blends editorial and, advertising, i.e. branded content of some type. And so all of those things made it really hard to change the company. So you create a different group. You create, which we did, which was a little unconventional, is we created, a separate editorial organization and a separate sales organization. And then you hope that can get some scale in terms of revenue and you can compete with the pure plays that are like taking lots of revenue from you. At the time, it was people like BuzzFeed and Refinery 29 and Vice. And then, over time, you try to then reassemble the organization around the new dominant media, which is kind of, digital, where magazines still exist and are important, but are kind of an afterthought economically. So yeah, it comes with a lot of danger in terms of managing a change process. And so in the case of Washington Post, I think it's even more difficult because the rules around, a hard news organization are more forbidding.
Yeah. So, I think you have to just change the structure in some ways. The Post.
Well, the idea that a revenue leader would tell people what to make, is a hard pill.
Well, they sort of like have it in between. Now they have a general manager, and she has background in editorial, but she's one of those people that sort of straddled the line between both sides, so to speak. But I look at like the Post, and it happened just at the time when they lost their TikTok guy. Like, one of the sort of great things that they were able to do at the Post over the last few years is they're really good at like TikTok and like YouTube. This guy Dave Jorgensen, who is really good at it, and they've done a better job there than I would say like the New York Times has done. But of course, and this is a story repeated across institutional media, he's now leaving. He's going with Micah Gelman and Micah's deputy to start their own video company to make.
Well, they're not
videos.
They're not talent management organizations like you find in Hollywood. That's another dimension to the change dynamic. And you got to remember that typically there's unions involved that want to create kind of a level playing field in terms of how people are compensated and treated, and then but you're really living in a star culture when it comes to sort of impresario media, which is what you're talking about.
Well, that's why these structures have to change. Like, you cannot have that sort of egalitarian ethos. I love it. Like, I feel like I'm like spiritually a socialist, but I live in the real world, and it just doesn't work. And so you have to end up having this, because when you're in, I think we see this across the whole media landscape.
You should move to Canada. There's a lot of spiritual
you get a little bit
there.
of the best of both worlds. I'm into that. But we see this across media where you have to be like a performer. And I think that those worlds are combining. And that's why you see, say, comedians who are now, trusted news sources. And I mean the new style comedians, not Stephen Colbert, who had a very bad week because his show is getting canceled. But that is another sort of sign of these shifting. Now, when the news came out that The Late Show is going to go away next year, it was an interesting Rorschach test for me for how people view the state of the media business. Because one side, it was all about Trump, and it was all about playing fealty to Trump. And I don't doubt that is part of the calculus as the deal goes through for Paramount and Skydance takes over. However, the other side, and it was leaked immediately, was that Colbert was making something around $20 million. The show has 200 staffers. It loses $40 million a year. It costs $100 million to make. Cut the losses in half. Say it only loses $20 million. You can't continue that. Like late night TV, as we've discussed on this show repeatedly, is in the uncanny valley of media. Like watching it just seems like you're in a time capsule. And the successors to that are not going to have 200 staffers and a band. I mean, get rid of the band. They should have gotten rid of the band. No offense to the band, whoever the band is, but they should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, I think the economics sound really. I mean, even when you think about it, 200 people, $200 million budget, right? They make 40 episodes a year, or no, it's way more than that. How many episodes a year do they make?
Every week. Every day, most.
40 weeks, 40 weeks, 5 days a week, right? I mean, it's not that expensive per episode, but it's not that expensive. The problem is there is the stuff that's taking that over that time is way cheaper to produce, or has.
When you say not that expensive, you're saying not that expensive.
He's comparing it to the unit cost of producing something for like a Netflix, right? Like it's in the scheme of things, that's a lot of episodes. So it's per minute, it's not terrible.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible, but it just shows that I think what's happening with TV is like so structural that. That part of the challenge with Colbert as well is that he had like a very bad digital footprint compared to the other guys, which that might save them. Like you hardly see Colbert on YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that. His stuff doesn't.
He also has an extremely old audience.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that hard to see. I mean, it's sort of like you get a phone call. It says, "Hey, we're going to need to actually make, this stuff pencil out as we move through the transaction. Hey, would you mind cutting some expense as we try to put these companies together? Better to lay off people before the transaction so I don't have to be the bad guy, and I'll give you a job if you do that." So then, I mean, I've been through this. And so you're like, where do you think you can cut expense? Oh, this Late Show's losing $40 million. But it's a great franchise and we love Colbert and all that stuff. And they're like, but Trump hates him. And we, need to serve that master. But, but that's not really the driving factor. Can we cut 40 million out of their budget? Maybe not. Can we cut 60 million out so it's actually profitable to the tune of 20% or something like that? That would be absolutely harrowing. So just cut the thing. Just cut it now. Get rid of the people. Let's move on. That format, that type is kind of dying, and we'll reimagine it.
You show your fealty and you show your chops to the incoming kind of leadership. I also think, like, when you look at it, like if you look at the modality of there's a lot of things happening. Like the celebrity is not the same it used to be. Celebrity now has to do a completely different circuit, like of social media and podcasts and stuff like that. And so, like, I'm sure the chicken shop date gets a lot more views than the same person happening on Colbert.
And by the way, what does the chicken shop date cost per minute? What's that compared?
I mean,
to
how much
Colbert?
does
because that's the economic comparison, not like to Netflix.
It's why we don't. It's the same thing. It's why we also don't. Music doesn't really have new bands anymore because it's really expensive to travel with a band and share that money. Instead, you have a DJ with a laptop. That's great. It costs you what? Price of an airplane ticket and some RCA cables. You're good.
It's like the immersive Van Gogh. That's like the greatest scam around.
Yeah, so I think especially like all that celebrity media stuff is totally upended. I mean, it's all like Hot Ones and Chicken Shop Date and whatever else, or these podcasts which are so cheap to produce. So it's sad to see, and it's probably yes to all of the reasons, right? Yes, it was probably like, well, we score some points with Trump, we score some points with whoever buying us, whatever. But that format's been dead. Like, I don't know what's up. Couldn't you see that 5 years ago that was happening? Like, how can you even be surprised? I'm surprised that these things are still on the air.
Yeah, but I mean, look, over the years when cable was fading with cord cutting, cord nevering, whatever, look, ESPN was going out there and John Skipper saying, "We still believe in the cable bundle. The cable bundle, you gotta operate the old business."
We had folks here saying that, digital media was doing great and because .dash number were great. I think maybe we need a.
Why do you keep taking shots at
no, but because I think
Neil
we maybe
and his
use
recipes.
Well, Neil, I mean,
as humans, Alex, and as media people, we're deeply nostalgic as well.
I understand. Look, I'm very nostalgic. I also joined an industry.
Well, I want to take away some of the things you cherish.
Well, I mean, the video game industry is also going through a massive upheaval. Like, people's attention is split everywhere. Everything's changing. What I'm maybe a useful, because I think we keep calling some of these things dead, and I considered like talk shows and stuff like that dead 5-6 years ago. We talked that like I have like millennial/Gen Z media consumption habits, which is very true. But maybe there's like a way of qualifying them, which is kind of AOL dead, Like when you say, oh, AOL is not a going concern anymore, but it still makes hundreds of millions of dollars a year because people still have CDs and modems in their homes.
That's not why. So you got to get your facts right.
Well, whatever. Well, why is it then?
Because people buy semantic to protect old people don't want to be, hacked.
Okay, fine. Because old people don't want to be hacked. Either way.
It's a direct marketing scheme. Okay, we can move on.
When you're looking at a trajectory of an industry, I think we have a lot of things that are running on fumes that we can probably, even if they're going to go on for another 20, 30 years, we can probably go on that they will have no impact and they're not telling us anything about where the industry is heading. And sometimes we look at those numbers and we say, this is still working, this is still on the air. So therefore, I think it taints our view of the future instead of saying, no, these things, they're going to stick around for a while, but we cannot consider them at all.
Well, this is a podcast about the future, so let's fucking move on.
Well, that's why I said like to me like those nightly shows should have been taken off the list 5 years ago. Even if
there's also another story here, a cream skimming story, Alex, which is if you want to listen to the monologue on Colbert, which is still a nice little tight piece of content, you can go watch it on your favorite YouTube platform. And all the value is taken by the aggregators.
But he could do that as a daily podcast he records in his bedroom.
Totally.
For free.
I want to talk about like the future a little bit here, because this is a good segue. And that's about like what formats are going to work in the future and whether you can build competitive advantage with a unique format. I know, Troy, you're big about that. One of the ones that I've been tracking is this guy, Pablo Torre. Do you know him? He has a video podcast called Pablo Torre Finds Out, and he used to be on The Ringer, and he has these like viral investigations that he does, and then instead of these things would have been 2,500, 4,000 word, written pieces, but he does them, and it's a performance basically with co-hosts in which he explains the findings, and it is done in a very engaging video way. And he's actually breaking big stories. I mean, he did this story about Bill Belichick and his significantly younger girlfriend, and he wrung everything he could out of that. But recently, he ended up uncovering a scandal at the NFL.
Alex, would you bring it up rather than messaging us when you have to have a hard stop?
No, I always say you can do this, Troy. You can do this transparently while I'm VJing this fucking podcast. You don't have to comment.
Exactly. I think he's great. I think this is a sign that people like to wring their hands and they say, well, without an institutional media, without newspapers, nobody will do accountability work. But there are signs out there that it is possible to do it and also to change up the format and how you do it. This is not the same as a long New York Times investigation. But when we talk about impact and journalism, I mean, the executive director of the NFLPA resigned because of this. I think that's pretty remarkable. So,
that is cool. The other
kudos to you, Pablo Torre.
Way to go, Pablo. The other one is the breaking and entering example is a fresh take on the world of agency updates, and actually
Yeah, it's like the modern ad age in
it's
some
a great product,
ways.
actually.
In any case, very, very high energy guys. They're very good like performers. I think we're seeing that across the board. I think when you look at like what the information is trying to do with they're basically trying to fast follow with TBPN. I think the difference, at least in the early days, is the TBPN guys are performers. And the information TV has journalists who are playing performers. And I think that is part of the challenge for a lot is like, you have to be performers these days. I mean, you just have to be. There's no other choice because you're competing with people who are natural born performers. I mean, did you see Mehdi Hassan, who did that, one of those Jubilee debates?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was
so he took on 20 far right people. And it's so funny because this is on both sides. It doesn't matter who you are. If it's Ben Shapiro or who's the British guy we talked about. Anyway, when you get in the cage with one of these professional debate people, like you're going to get your face ripped off. Like a civilian should not do that. These people are well trained and they're dangerous. So just don't get involved in that. And Mehdi Hassan like had his way with these far right people. One guy lost his job.
Yeah, I mean, and the amount
he doesn't mind being called a Nazi at all. That didn't go well for him.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that Jubilee thing popped up, and the amount of content that gets created around that, right? It's actually really valuable if you're a podcaster or a media personality to appear on that, kind of go into the octagon essentially, and then the amount of content that you can generate, little clips and stuff like that, is insane. Like he's been on dozens of podcasts since then. So I think we should do one, like Alex Schleifer versus 20 media executives would be
20
good.
SEO guys.
20 SEO guy. Troy Young, I don't know, what would it be?
Who would you battle, Troy?
20
someone
blue
like
collar
Alex.
workers.
I can't do that. That's not for me. I shy from contact too much.
Brian versus 20 executives. Yeah, I think that would be good.
Sherry Phillips from Forbes, the CEO of Forbes, said that I've softened over the years. She said, as the industry has gotten tougher, I've gotten easier on the people running these businesses. Anyway, I do think we are seeing the change in these kind of formats. What I wonder, however, is whether a unique format is enough in some ways, because I just feel like everything becomes tired and you have to move on to a different format these days. I mean, look at Axios. I mean, their format innovation is now not an innovation. And I mean, maybe it was because it was just bullet points and summarization.
I would actually disagree there.
Okay.
Respectfully, Brian. I think that bullets are not the moat, obviously. I think that Axios continues to write news in a way that is easy to digest, unlike many, many of their competitors. And it's a whole ethos that kind of trickles through the entire organization around brevity. And so it is, in a way, a differentiator. And I do think that, listen, those guys, the breaking and entering guys, all they're trying to do to get their company going is find a hack to get attention. And then it's kind of like, will that format of them do, madcap agency updates and stuff, will that sustain? Maybe they're going to have to evolve their formats as all media companies do, but now they have attention. So now they have attention, they can start to build out their media brand, which is the hardest thing to do when you're beginning anything these days. So you do that, you get a little hack going, you get a little attention, as you can see from the Wall Street Journal and others. And then you figure out where you're going to build something sustainable. So I think this is actually the 0 to 1 challenge, is how do you do something that's disruptive and that hits a kind of utilitarian need in this case, which is like, I'm in the agency business. I want an update every morning that's like a minute long. Great.
I mean, format is easy to copy, which is why, folks need like format plus personality, right? Which is what the chicken shop data is, that's
kind of my point. Alex just made it better.
Yeah. I feel like there have been like old media brands that have pretty good formats. I wonder if it's the future, the GQ 10 things, the Architectural Digest, walk through some celebrity's home. These are formats that they've kind of jumped on and owned. And I think if you're a media brand and you're not trying to see which type of formats you can create around, because a brand can be a personality, right? Like a walk through my home by Architectural Digest has more value, I think, than
Yeah, I
other
just
things.
wonder if they last, because think about the listicle format. That went everywhere. And now when you run into the listicles, again, it's in the uncanny valley to me.
Hey, you're talking about text formats again.
I know.
Those are all gone. Those are all gone, my
Well,
friend.
that is another thing. Fortune this week cut 10%. And it's become a regular thing. I feel like AI, kind of like COVID, was like the handy excuse for anything. Like everyone is going to reference AI when they're making these cuts. And of course, they mention AI. But they also said that their new strategy is to embrace franchises, aka lists, the most powerful women, et cetera, as well as, and this is an emerging playbook, events, audio, and video. And I think a lot of these companies are going in similar directions from what I can tell, particularly in that set of magazine brands. I don't know if you see this, Troy. It seems like everyone wants to run a version of the Forbes playbook.
Well, I mean, I think the pressure on the business is real, so you got to find money elsewhere. I think if you don't have a real reporting flywheel that's serving a vertical in a meaningful way, which is to me what they're trying to do over at Wired, and is more sustainable, then you look to kind of pimp out your IP, your brand in different ways, so people can use it as a badge of distinction. And you combine that with, an event or two, and you sell, you're by necessity very ad driven. And I think it's a strategy. I do think that it's a strategy afforded by people that have brands that can, designate something. And I don't think it makes for a very lively or, high margin media business, but it's still a business.
All right, I've got a hard stop. I got to go.
All right, you got a hard stop. So we're not going to get into agentic AI. Can you give us just a couple of minutes on what the hell is going on with this OpenAI agents and why Silicon Valley is so obsessed with robots booking vacations of all things?
I think the robots booking vacation things, all of these examples, the problem is they always come from executives who haven't booked their own flight in years. So that's number one. It's always the worst examples. I don't know. It was probably happening in the past when people were trying to sell computers where they would give stupid examples, but these are always stupid examples. Number two, agentic AI is, of course, the future that a lot of people want, including ourselves, because there's a lot of shit we do every day that we don't want to do. Number three, these things are nowhere close to doing that, because already just with information, they make such massive mistakes that you would never trust it to book your flight, let alone kind of manage your calendar. Although we are going to see some of the things like managing calendars and stuff like that move forward. Everybody's trying to move into that. The people that own the information, like Google and Apple, are the best positioned. However, OpenAI probably has the best technology right now. The reason Apple and Google have best positions is because they have access to your life. Nobody else does. But I don't think we're anywhere close right now to feeling comfortable enough to deal with the mistakes of a computer, of an AI going rogue on a computer and doing things on your behalf. It's still very slow. It still asks you every time you do something. So it's interesting, but I think what we're watching right now with this AI thing is prototyping in the public. Because everybody's trying to move so fast, we are seeing stuff that we should never see, that should be baked for another 2 years. But
what we're also seeing, Alex, is kind of evolution or reinvention of connections between interfaces.
Yes.
So as those become more sort of infallible as API connections that can be ingested by the agents, we're going to see more realistic agentic behavior. And so we're just sort of on the path there. The vertical ones, like the one that you referenced in the notes, Brian, for scheduling called
Blockit. AB is a
Blockit.
massive Blockit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He had me talking to his Blockit bot.
I gotta. Speaking of Blockit, my AI is telling me that I have a hard stop.
You'll miss good product. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. See you both. I have some format ideas that I want to pitch.
Okay. I think we could spin off Alex's little high energy 1 minute rant. See ya.
All right.
Should we do a quick good product?
I had an encounter. I don't know if it was a good product, Brian, but I remember being in the Denver airport with my kids eating Shake Shack.
Weird place. Profoundly weird
I like
place.
the Denver airport, and I really like Shake Shack. I like this Shake Shack. What's it called? The one with bacon and sauce, and I actually like it in a lettuce wrap. It's nice.
Oh, wow.
It's called the Smoke Shack, I believe.
Oh.
Anyway, that's not my. So I was reading the newspaper and I read about Dave's Hot Chicken, which had started.
That's a great story.
In Portland or something, where it was like a food truck kind of thing. $900. It might not have been Portland. Is it Austin? Maybe you can fact check it. Anyway, and I was walking in Brooklyn Heights yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's a Dave's Hot Chicken." And
it started in East Hollywood.
Oh, in LA. Okay.
3 childhood friends pulled $900 together to start a business. They were inspired by Nashville-style hot chicken and the success of In-N-Out. It was just amazing how fast they did it.
How fast. So
this is 2017. This is this is not an internet app.
There was a lineup. The interior was vile, and it's like graffiti localized, like Brooklyn spray painted on the wall with a bunch of shapes and stuff. So it's not the most hospitable place to have a bite to eat. But I got the bundle number 1, which is 2 gigantic chicken strips, terrific fries on, strangely, like 2 pieces of Wonder Bread, and with a nice spicy dipper. They ask you.
Well, that's the classic way to eat hot chicken.
Yeah, they ask you how you want it, medium, spicy, whatever. And it was. I feel like I need to go to my cardiologist, but it was good. It was good. The room was gross. The chicken was a good consistency. It was spicy and a little bit sweet, and the portions were very American, which I would have split it with you. We could have had a nice, $13.
I would have loved that. That would have been a nice moment.
And the fries were crispy crinkles, which is a nice touch. Overall, people seemed happy. There was a lineup, and
so in 8 years, they created $1 billion business. And what's remarkable to me about this is, hot chicken. Like I think of Hattie B's in Nashville. You used to have to go to Nashville to get like hot chicken. That's you go there, you go to Hattie B's. I've gone to Hattie B's in Las Vegas now, but they just got the private equity money a little bit too late. It's impossible to have a really popular local restaurant now that stays local. It inevitably, if you hit it, you're gonna go big, and you can do it very quickly, as they did with Dave's Hot Chicken. As long as you got the formula down and it's extensible. So that's a good product.
Yeah, it was with an asterisk, but the other thing is,
it could kill you.
Party last night was kind of a nice product. It's at this bar that's kind of like a private bar, but it's not a membership bar, and it's owned by, I forget the woman's name, and I think AB might be an investor in it. It's called People's. And it's like a room in a building, like a long room on 13th in Manhattan. And AB had assembled
it's an evening club and art salon. Yeah,
right,
to correct you.
There you go. And it was a nice group of sort of media adjacent, some attorneys there, some deal types. Your friend who spoke very highly of you, CJ.
Oh, yeah. He's got a great business. He does mostly metrics, which is basically, I guess, kind of like stratechery, but for CFOs. Great area.
He's a CFO himself.
Yeah, he's a CFO. That's why that's the best.
You know who else I met last night? This is an interesting company. So imagine that you're a vertically integrated fortune cookie advertising play, and you buy up all of these fortune cookie production capabilities. And with each one that you buy, you get distribution into local restaurants that use you. And you basically supply, Chinese restaurants with free fortune cookies. Now, the hook is on one side, it's going to tell you your future. On the other side is an ad for Geico.
Yeah. Is this Open Fortune?
Might be.
Yeah.
Anyway, it turns out that it's a killer company, meaning it's not massive. It's, mid-20s revenue, but it's got 50% margin. It's great business.
Yeah. I mean, there's like Reddit threads on Open Fortune and how even the fortune cookies have ads these days. I'm long on ads. Ads will always find a way. I don't care about AI.
Well, I think that they're finding a way, and the next is to open up the Mexican market by doing a sort of like fortune cookie-like thing in a tortilla. So look forward to seeing more fortunes in your free kind of end cap to your meal at your favorite Mexican joint.
I like had it as a sub beat when I was a reporter at Adweek to do like weird ad network. I covered weird ad networks, like urinal cake, like ad networks and whatnot, because I mostly wanted to talk to them.
So much attention in the bottom of the urinal. That's
yeah. And they all have crazy statistics, because you have to put numbers on everything, like, the amount of time and attention, like because you add it up, that are spent at urinals. And, one of them was, I've always been a big fan of the elevator ad network, Captivate. Great name for it too. I mean, because you're in the elevator, you're not going to make eye contact. You're going to go up 40 stories or something, and you're going to watch some headlines and some ads.
Yeah.
Great business. Gas station TV, execution. I do have if I ever have a Wikipedia, I do want to have in there that I got cheddar on gas station.
I'll write one for you if you write one for me.
Yeah, okay, no problem. Well, you'll have a controversies and criticism section. I don't know if I'll have one.
Not really. But yeah, I welcome that.
All the good Wikipedias have, I don't think you should have a Wikipedia unless you have a controversies and criticism section, because that's the section I go to immediately. That's how you get to really know a person. Okay, is that it? My only other good product is, you ever have like a salt encrusted, like one of the salt encrusted branzinos?
Yeah,
they
like
case the thing in like an entire thing of salt. I tried to make it one time. It's harder to make than you would think. It's a good product. Keeps the moisture in. Too many Americans are squeamish about the whole fish. It's ridiculous. A lot of you are going to Europe for vacation this summer because that's what Americans do these days. Get the whole fish. Watch like a French guy debone like a whole fish. Like, I mean, this guy is going to be totally locked in. It's going to be like watching a surgeon perform. So take notes.
Where did you have that, Brian?
I had that at Casa Tua in Miami Beach.
Yeah, nice.
Very nice.
All right.
Let's leave it there. That was high energy. It's good.
Thank you.
Thanks.